Afrobarometer, a Pan-African non-partisan survey research network, recently conducted surveys in 39 African countries. The surveys relieved that many are losing faith in elections as the best method for choosing their leaders. For more insight, VOA's Ndiho spoke to Boniface Dulani, Director of Surveys at Afrobarometer offices in Zomba, Malawi.
There has been, I think, a feeling out there that Africans are becoming disillusioned with democracy and are willing to discard democracy and embrace non-democratic alternatives. And we've seen the military coups in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, in Gabon, among some of the examples. And we've actually seen people on the streets celebrating the ouster of democratically elected governments. And these few anecdotal cases, and I'll say anecdotal, are usually used to infer that, well, maybe we are seeing a pushback against democracy. I should say, based on the findings from our surveys, again, across this continent, support for democracy remains very strong. I think when in our most recent surveys, for example, almost 75% of citizens in again about 39, 40 countries expressed preference for democracy over any other forms of government. And we do ask them also whether they would reject military rule, reject one-party rule, or reject dictatorships where we have one person really governing. Again, we find a strong rejection of these modes of government. Granted, there are a few, a small minority, including the youth, who are willing to embrace alternatives to democracy.
Granted, there is democracy in Africa and a lot of people embrace democracy. But then we also have situations whereby we have these leaders who have come through elections but then overstayed their welcome. When you look at data coming from those countries, the quality of democracy tends to fizzle out. They become autocrats in a sense that they start treating people differently. What do your surveys tell you about the quality of democracy?
Our survey data shows that demand for democracy remains very, very strong. We've seen it declines, yes, over the years, but still large majorities of African citizens want democracy and reject authoritarian rule. And we see this also in our surveys, where again citizens express frustration about the quality of elections, as well as the failure of these leaders really to leave office. But I should say that while we have so many such cases, with examples of the Musevens, the Paul Kagames of the world, we are also beginning to see a new trend. Ghana, for example, there's been a frequent rotation of the ruling parties, so much that it's become, basically a pattern that a party comes to power for 2 terms, they are almost guaranteed that they will lose the next elections. In Nigeria, there was that change, from President Goodluck Jonathan, when he lost and he agreed to leave office. In Zambia, in Malawi, there have been changes in power. So there are some positive stories, even though there are also these kind of negative stories.
That was Boniface Dulani, Director of Surveys at Afrobarometer based in Zomba, Malawi, speaking to VOA's Ndiho.